From our 22 News Broadcast Center, this is a Decision 2014 special program. Today, a debate with Democratic candidates for the 2nd Hampden and Hampshire District Senate seat. And now, here's Rich Teddemer.
Good afternoon. 22 News is working for you this week as we let the candidates you'll see on the ballot next Tuesday debate the issues today. It's Chris Hopewell and Patrick Leahy, the two Democrats running to see who will face incumbent State Senator Don Humison for the 2nd Hampden and Hampshire District seat. This is a Lincoln-Douglas style debate where the candidates ask each other questions with time for answers and for rebuttal. They have 30 seconds to ask a question, 60 seconds to respond, and then 30 seconds for rebuttal. First, each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement, and due to a drawing, Chris Hopewell will get the first chance at the opening statement. Chris?
Thank you, Rich, and thank you to Channel 22 for inviting me here today, and thank you to my opponent, Patrick Leahy, for being here today to discuss the issues. I look forward to a spirited exchange of ideas and a conversation about the issues. But first of all, I'd like to offer my sincere condolences to the family of Lieutenant Colonel Fontenot. I know this was a tragic loss for his family and for the community at the 104th. My good friend and colleague Yasser Menwar is the master sergeant in the intel unit there, and I know how close he was with all the pilots. And again, I want to offer my sincere condolences. And I had an opening statement here, but I'm going to essentially, if you want to know about my positions, go to Hopewell for SenateMA.com. But I have a very, very in-depth family history of military service. My grandfather served in World War I. He was an armorer and an infantryman. My father was in the Merchant Marines, 47 years, 25 as captain.
That's time, Mr. Hopewell.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leahy, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you, Chris, for being here, and to the people at 22 for hosting us. It's so important to have these debates to get our information and our thoughts and our positions out to the people watching. I'd also like to echo Chris's statements and send out my condolences to everyone at the 104th Fighter Wing. Our thoughts and prayers are with you and your families. My name is Patrick Leahy, and I'm running for State Senate. I believe that we need to have a voice in Boston that can work collaboratively with the Western Mass delegation to bring those vital tax dollars back to Western Massachusetts. Every day our tax dollars go down to Boston. We need somebody down there that can be at the table helping to make those decisions, to craft the legislation that will be most beneficial for those of us who live here in the Pioneer Valley. As a police officer in the city of Holyoke, I've seen time and time again how the things that are the legislation that's created in Boston sometimes misses its mark. My name's Patrick Leahy, and I hope to earn your vote September 9th.
All right, gentlemen, thanks very much. Now, once again, the rules of the Lincoln-Douglas debate is 30 seconds to ask a question, 60 seconds to answer, then 30 seconds for rebuttal. Once again, by work of the drawing here, Chris Hopewell will go first with the first question. Chris?
Thank you. I ran over on my opening statement, but I'll finish it on my closing statement. Thanks. Mr. Leahy, education is one of the most pressing issues facing our district today. In our district, 23% of the students failed to graduate high school in 4 years. I have released a policy position to address this. What policy have you released, and what would be your approach to improving our school's 4-year graduation rate?
The graduation rate, great question, Chris. And as a police officer in the city of Holyoke, I see time and time again that the dropout rate is too high in the city of Holyoke. It correlates, unfortunately, with us in Massachusetts. We have in Holyoke the highest teen pregnancy rate. I believe all of these can be affected in a positive way by an early childhood literacy program. And one of the things that we did in the community police division of the Holyoke Police Department is we started handing out books to children, making sure that they have the ability to read, gives them the basis of a good education and therefore their life ahead. Once we have that core base foundation, we can grow off of that. We can make them, they can become better parts of our community. So education starts at the very basic young age. We have to make sure that they have the educational building blocks to go and perform in a college or the vocational schools.
Rebuttal.
That's very interesting, Patrick. Your experience at Holyoke is commendable. However, this is a big district. And clearly, one of my first actions I'll do is to try to increase the graduation rate from 16 to 17. it clearly shows that students who graduate have a 23% higher chance of graduating if they can be spotted early on, and that they have the information and that they have the understanding that dropping out from high school will hurt them. And clearly,
that's time, Mr. Hopewell.
Clearly.
Patrick, your first question, please.
Thank you, Rich. Chris, when we go door to door and we're talking to the residents here, there are so many different needs and priorities in our district. As you just pointed out, it's a very big district. What would be your #1 priority if elected?
Clearly, Pat, good question. We have a semi-urban, suburban, and semi-rural district, and each and every city and town has an interesting issue. So you have to look at the district as a whole, and you have to address that. And most every town and city has an issue about funding, and that's bringing tax dollars to help them manage their challenges and hopefully bring, through innovative ideas, ways to help them manage their issues through more money from the state, through innovation and ideas.
Rebuttal.
Well, Chris, one of the #1 priority that I find that when I'm speaking to the people out there is job creation. We have to create a pipeline from our vocational and training programs to good paying jobs. We spoke earlier, I speak on the campaign trail about the need to have the skill gap filled in, and we have to do that. It creates a better jobs, creates stable homes and better environments for the children to grow.
Mr. Hopewell, your next question, please.
Mr. Leahy, during our last roundtable discussion, you stated that you did not know enough about the Kinder Morgan pipeline and declined to take a position on this project. While you punted on the question, I have stood with U.S. Senator Liz Warren, who wrote some weeks ago that we can do better than this pipeline. And I agree. And I've released several policy statements regarding this. Have you released a statement on this issue, and what is your position this week?
My position this week is the same as it was in a previous debate. I have not released a position because we do not yet know all of the information on the Kinder Morgan pipeline. Ultimately, it is going to be a federally run program. So we're going to have to work hand in hand with our delegation, our federal delegation, to make sure that if a pipeline is put into this area, it is the least impact, has the least impact on our environment. But right now, there aren't any specifics laid out as far as where that pipeline is going to go. So right now, I think it's premature to take a position on it, considering that our energy needs are still not being met, and we still have a lot to learn about this proposed pipeline.
Patrick, I'm going to disagree with you on there. This position has been out there quite clearly on the dangerous side of fracking, what comes through those pipelines as a result of fracking, the amount of dangerous methane leaks we have in the system. There is plenty of evidence-based literature out there on the Kinder Morgan pipeline. And certainly we have 40 senators to make decisions, and we need a senator who's going to do his homework on these issues, and certainly go, if you don't know the answer, go to places where you'll find the answers. And clearly the pipeline has some bad advantages, and we need a comprehensive policy on pipelines.
Mr. Leahy, your next question, please.
Thank you, Rich. Mr. Hopewell, in a previous debate, you were not clear on your position in relation to the Quinn bill. You're not clear when asked whether or not the state should fund their portion of the Quinn bill. And then in the subsequent article asking for clarification, you said that the state should resume funding with a caveat about some kind of study. Can you please explain to the listeners what your position actually is and what study you would like to have done?
Thank you for that, and I'll make that perfectly clear. We, at the state level, have not, or those at the state level have not followed the Quinn bill and have chosen not to fund it. So you have to look at what is the investment the state's making? What, if you're going to incentivize people, specifically police officers, to get an advanced degree, where's the value in that? Where do you see the value in versus a teacher or a healthcare professional? Where is the uniformity? Where is the value? Where can the state measure the productivity of different officers in different schools getting degrees? I support educated police officers, and certainly we need to revisit this bill and certainly give the state and give the legislators the facts they need to make a decision to support our police officers like yourself.
Rebuttal.
Well, there you have it. On the Kinder Morgan pipeline, he had the white papers and the documentation. There's been more studies done on the Quinn bill and its effect to positively impact the police profession in the state of Massachusetts, one of the best police forces in the entire country. The Quinn bill has given people like myself the ability to go to Westfield State University and get my master's degree. And creating a more educated professional police force helps everybody.
Mr. Hopewell, your next question, please.
Thank you, Rich. Mr. Leahy, healthcare spending makes up over 40% of our state's budget, and it's an expenditure that rises every year. I have released a policy to attempt to bring down these costs and to move our healthcare system into the future. What policy have you released, and what is your proposal to bring down specifically healthcare spending?
Thank you, Chris. When we talk about healthcare spending, healthcare runs the gambit throughout the entire district. Everybody that lives in this district has at some point been in the hospital. But specifically talking about healthcare and healthcare costs, we need to make sure that we save taxpayer dollars with real cost control measures, such as bulk purchasing of prescription medications, mandated uniform billing for all insurers, and capping insurance companies' administrative costs. Private insurers spend less than 89 cents on the dollar on actual medical costs, the rest going to high salaries for lobbyists and professionals. Medicare, meanwhile, spends 98 cents. We need to do better, and that's the direction we need to move in.
Clearly, I have a very comprehensive plan in reducing healthcare costs, and that is through a concept called mobile integrated healthcare. And that's about changing the dynamics completely about how first responders like yourself, paramedics, and EMTs and nurses treat people who call 911 to go to the hospital. Certainly, everyone that calls 911 does not need to go to the hospital. I have a plan to hopefully, matter of fact, I'm confident we can save, of the $17 billion that we spend, 42% of our budget, that I can save 1% of that, which is $150 million
Mr. Hopewell.
with innovation, just like mobile integrated healthcare.
Mr. Leahy, your question, please.
Thank you, Rich. Well, this segues very nicely because you've campaigned on the fact that you can save millions of dollars in healthcare, and you've only nibbled at around the edges, but you haven't offered any actual facts or figures. What essential services are you going to cut to realize these savings that you've been talking about on the campaign trail?
First and foremost, I'm not going to cut any service. In healthcare, you have to look at the waste. The absolute waste, specifically when we look at a nonprofit hospital that paid their CEO close to $900,000, and they're a nonprofit organization. All right, they don't have the scrutiny of a lot of oversight. And for 20 years, this particular institution has been not looked at, and shame on our legislators for letting this happen. We need to look at all avenues of waste before we even think about trying to do different things, raise taxes. There is so much waste in healthcare. I see it every day, and as your state senator, I know the questions to ask, and I'll ask those questions, and I will make specific plans like mobile integrated healthcare to bring those savings back to Western Mass.
Rebuttal.
Well, Chris, I disagree. I'm proud to say that I have the support of Ward 2 City Councilor Anthony Soto, who was the person who discovered this and brought it to the public's attention and got that money back into the coffers of the Holyoke Medical Center. And when we talk about waste, I'm the only candidate in this entire race who's actually gone down to the State House and put checks and balances in place to reduce waste, prevent fraud. They're still being implemented today, and I'm very proud of that.
Okay, gentlemen, we are at our break right now. We're going to take a short 2-minute break, and then more questions between the Democratic candidates running for the state Senate in the 2nd Hampden and Hampshire District. You're watching 22 News.